Welcome to the Three-Piece Combo MMA Show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Johnathan, aka Three-Piece Combo, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Bryan Young, aka at Bryan is King. You can find him on YouTube or on Twitter, of course, and check out his horror stories. He writes some awesome horror stories, so make sure you check those out as well. But if you were with us, you just witnessed Jake Paul knock the shit out of Tyron Woodley and put that boy to sleep. Now, first of all, I want to give credit where credit's due. Like, as someone, I watch fights pretty often, but Jake Paul was, his corner was giving him really good advice, right? His corner was telling him, hey, every time you're feinting at him, he's trying to parry the hands, he's parrying too far forward. And all throughout the fight, I felt like he wasn't, Jake Paul wasn't punching as much as he should. Obviously, both fighters wasn't. It was basically a matter of clinch. I said essentially that I thought that Tyron Woodley was trying to win via clinch points, right? Via get some control time. But that was the first 5 rounds. Pretty boring fight. I was pretty upset at myself for and I watched the fight again. When I die, Tyron Woodley, please leave, lower me to my grave so you can let me down one more time. But going into that 6th round, he faked to the body, went up tied to the head, and good night, Tyron Woodley. And man, Jake Paul just knocked out a former UFC champion. And like I said, I want to give credit where credit's due because, anybody on the street can do that. This man puts in the work for sure. He has the power, right? He overcame a little bit of adversity. There was an inadvertent elbow that caused him to bleed as well. But man, it's just crazy that to think about Jake Paul knocking out Tyron Woodley. Before I talk anymore, man, I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, what were your thoughts on the fight overall? And when he knocked him out, man, what was going through your head?
I mean, I was disappointed. I gotta admit, I was pulling for Tyron, but you know what? Like you said, give credit where credit's due. I mean, Tyron dropped that hand. I think it was he dropped his right hand, and Jake Paul recognized that, and boom, good night. I felt that Tyron was winning the fight up until that point. There wasn't a ton of action. I felt that Tyron was doing better in the clinch. I thought he had, I don't know, I guess the Hobby Box numbers haven't come out yet, but I feel like if we looked at them, probably see that Tyron had a little bit more output. It looked like Jake was kind of getting tired, but all it takes is that one shot, man, and he was out. This baby underscore rage underscore U underscore D underscore 3. Like you said, Tyron turned into Nate Robinson, and he did. Jake was saying that he wanted to kind of correct the last match, knock out Tyron, make sure that all of his opponents were KOs, and he did that tonight. And props to him. I think that after this fight, there's no more UFC eyes, there's no more YouTubers. You have to fight an actual boxer. You have to fight a guy that can do more than work out the clinch. You have to fight a guy who's not going to drop that right hand. You have to fight a guy who has the power and has the output and is actually going to go for the KO when he gets you hurt. Tyron Woodley is a great fighter. I think that if this was a fight on the street, if this was a fight in the octagon, we would know the outcome. But props to Jake Paul tonight.
Yeah, man, mad props to him because, like you said, he got it done. And I want to shout out to Baby Rage UD. Hey, it's 1:05 in the morning. You're joining us. Tyrone really returned to get bodied. He did, man, and he went out sad. Unfortunately, to say it that way. J Dog 96 saying Canelo versus Jake Paul. Hey, that's a money fight for sure. And Brian, I know you're saying probably no more MMA guys, but there are a ton of guys that are going to sign up to get their biggest paycheck ever to fight Jake Paul, right? Absolutely. I mean, I can absolutely see Jorge Masvidal doing it after his fighting career is done with the UFC. I can see, maybe Nate Diaz even doing it. I don't know if he would stoop down that low as far as, that gangster respect that Nate Diaz has in the streets to fight a Jake Paul. But if you have somebody calling you out like that, you just knocked out a former UFC champion, you're a little more legit.
Yeah, no,
Duncan Robinson greater than Tyron Woodley. Duncan Robinson at least will shoot his shot, right? Tyron Woodley wouldn't even punch his punch. I want to see Duncan Robinson fight Jake Paul next. That would go pretty well. We probably see Duncan Robinson go to sleep, but would be a fun fight for sure. But yeah, as far as his next fight goes, man, he called out those two guys. Tommy Fury is obviously a name that's still in the pipeline as well. Of those guys, like which one do you want him to see to fight next? Obviously, the fight with Tommy Fury, you're fighting against a little bit more of a legitimate boxer. Obviously, he doesn't have great boxing skills like his brother, but he is a boxer, right? That's all that he's done, right? He's not a guy that's crossing over from another sport. He's not a basketball player. He's not another former YouTuber or anything like that. He's an actual boxer. So I think with that, you might have not a little more challenge, but you might see a little more of a technical battle rather than a clinch war. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts and who you think you should see him fight next?
Yeah, I actually do like the Tommy Fury fight. I just think that, he's been boxing since he was a kid, right? So I think that, like you mentioned, to be a little bit more of a technical fight. They're about the same size, which, Jake has basically every one of his opponents has been a decent amount smaller than him. I think that Tommy Fury, he claims him and his brother, or him and Tyson claim that he has the power to knock out Jake Paul. I'd be interested in that. I just don't want to see guys who are learning boxing while he's been doing it for 3 years. Like, again, all props to Jake Paul, but there's a skill and knowledge gap when you've been doing something for 3 years versus guys who, have only been in training camp for a few months. And in this case, Tyron Woodley didn't even know he was going to be fighting Jake Paul for the past few weeks. Versus Tommy Fury, who, like I said, has been doing it since he was a child, and he has not only that experience, but he's been training with one of the best heavyweight boxers of all time in Tyson Fury. So, listen, that whole team coming up to this fight was supposed to be the Fury versus Paul fight. They were very, very confident that Fury was going to get the job done. Fury even said that in his last fight, he had essentially sandbagged, looked worse than he probably is to get this fight. So, there's been a lot of smack talk going back and forth, and I think that that's the next fight.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best matchup there. Baby Rage saying, big fan of the post game shows for the Heat. Keep it up. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you joining us. Like I said, 1 o'clock in the morning. You out here supporting us. Appreciate you. Make sure to drop a like if you like what you see, man. Appreciate you out here. But yeah, I think that Tommy Fury fight would probably be the best matchup for him. But man, the dude is a draw, right? I think after tonight's fight was definitely simmered down a little bit more from the first fight. I felt like the first fight had a little bit more hype. But after what he did to Tyron Woodley, man, he's going to have a lot of people asking to fight him. He's basically a walking paycheck now, right? He is the money fight, even though he doesn't have the skills of a Canelo, right? He's a draw. And when you're a draw, you'll see the promoters will go above and beyond to line you up the fights that work best for you because they want to keep your draw a draw. So I think Tommy Fury is that next best matchup for him. But man, let me ask you, do you think he has what it takes to become a legitimate boxer? Because he's still young, right? He comes from an athletic background. He's working with the best coaches, right? And something that's really important, especially in combat sports, is the mindset, right? A lot of athletes have the physical abilities, but to have the mindset is something else. And when you knock somebody out like Tyron Woodley, you get a little more confident in yourself, right? When you go back and you're in the sparring room and you're working those punches. Now these punches have a little more meaning. You can kind of translate them a little bit better. And now you have that inner confidence in yourself. So now you have just kind of that self-motivation that allow you to keep going. So do you think he can actually become a legit boxer, right? Do you think if he continues to cherry pick his matchups, which is fine, right? He's still only 4-0 now, or 5-0, I think. Yeah, 5-0 with 4 knockouts, right? Knocked out everybody he's fought. He's 5-0. He hasn't fought real boxers yet, but he's fought in some combat athletes. His next test is going to be a decently boxer, a decent, if it's Tommy Fury, at least he'll be fighting an actual boxer. Do you think he can actually work his way up to being a legitimate boxer?
I think he can. I mean, I think that he is smart enough to cherry pick his opponents. I don't think he's going to be looking for the toughest competition. And even though I mentioned he's been boxing for 3 years, it's still not a ton of experience versus guys who have been doing it for over a decade. I think that as he gets up, as he fights more and more guys, we're going to be saying, hey, fight a guy with this much experience, fight a guy with this much size, fight a guy with this much punching power, fight a guy with this much technical skill. And I think that, if he's smart about his career, if he doesn't do the whole like macho, like, oh, I'm going to fight whoever the best guy available. Sure. I think that, the great Chael Sonnen has said, if I'm your manager, I can get you to 20-0. We can pick the right guys. And I think this is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to pick the right guys. He's going to work his way up. Now, once he gets to that elite competition, I don't think he's going to be able to compete with those guys. I think that if he were to fight, say, Canelo, it'd be a very, very short night for Jake Paul. But I don't think he's ever going to get there. I don't think he needs to get there. He just needs to be an attraction, be a guy that's going to make a lot of money. He can get himself a pretty decent record. The other factor that I think is at play is he has a lot of money. He can afford to hire the best trainers. He can afford to hire the best sparring partners. So I think I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Jake Paul. I feel like he's going to be around the boxing game for a while. And love him or hate him, we're going to see a lot of him.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, man. Love him or hate him, you heard the "fuck Jake Paul" chants echoing through the Amalie Arena over there in Tampa, and like you love him or hate him, that reaction that you're gonna get from seeing him knock out somebody else or knock out Tyron Woodley at least is gonna affect you in some way, right? Jake Paul is picking his fights in order to go easy, then he's gonna probably go hard. I agree with you there. I heard about Ryan Garcia versus Jake, but Garcia winning that. Yeah, he's too technically sound to lose that. Even though Ryan Garcia is like 60 pounds smaller than him,
he would smash Jake Paul.
Yeah, he would absolutely destroy him. Yeah. That's not a fight to make yet. It's never going to be a fight. The commission would never allow it anyways, But as far as if he can be a legit boxer, I do think he has the skills, right? I think when you fight through adversity and you make it through, it allows you to become a better fighter, right? You evolve into a better fighter. And in this fight, he didn't take too much damage. And that's something you want to look at as a fighter is going on in their career, right? How much damage are they taking early? Are they taking lots of punches to the head? Are they taking, lots of body shots? Are they just going to take a lot of, subconcussive damages, blows? Because that's what boxing is. It's a lot of subconcussive blows to the head that's going to affect him long term. And he's only 24 years old, right? He's only 24 years old. And I think with the people that he has around him, with the belief that he has on himself, with the money, right? With the money and the ability to cherry pick the matchups and choose who he wants to fight, I think he has the potential to work his way up there. I think the line or the path is very clear, right? I don't think there's really much question or many question marks as far as the path that he has to take to become a legit boxer. I think he just has to follow it, right? I think he just has to follow that path, continue to do what he's doing. I mean, shocking the world almost every time you're coming out here. I mean, even when he knocked out Nate Robinson, I can't say I wasn't a little bit impressed, right? Even for him to put out an athlete was that, and for him to do that tonight to a former UFC champion, that's that's still saying something. So crazy stuff there. Absolutely insane night. Jake Paul knocked out former UFC champion Tyron Woodley. Any closing thoughts on that fight?
Props to Jake Paul. I don't like the guy. I don't like him at all. But man, I mean, not only to knock out a former UFC champion, but to have the cardio to do it in the 6th round when you haven't boxed a lot. Hey man, none of us could do it. Anybody that's questioning him, you try to knock out a former UFC champion in 6 rounds. I guarantee you 99% of people couldn't do it. So props to him.
Yeah, I mean, just to, I play basketball pretty, decently amount, athletic person, do amount of good stuff. I joined Muay Thai like 2 months ago, and I was like, all right, let's see how sparring goes. After 3 minutes, you talk about heavyweights and you want to clown on heavyweights for moving slow. After 3 minutes, somebody who's 155 pounds is gassed and my hands were down. So the amount of cardio it takes, and we saw it earlier. And I don't know if you want to talk about this one too. I think we should because it was on the card. Darren Williams versus Frank Gore.
They got gassed very quickly. These are guys who have been in the NFL and the NBA. Both sports that require crazy cardio, and they're getting gassed after a couple rounds. Like, I don't think people realize how in shape these boxers or these professional fighters are. Man, it's insane to watch. And like I said, anybody that questions it, go do it. Go do it. And you're gonna quit. You're gonna quit very quick because it's tough.
And it's tough to continue to throw punches once you're gassed, right? And for them to have the ability to still have like that power to go with it. Crazy, man. But I want to change gears a little bit to this fight. The first fight between NBA versus NFL, right? I mean, you have these two completely different sports, right? One is the tougher sport, I guess you can say. It's a lot physically. It's a lot more of a physical sport, right? And then you have the NBA, which not as physical, a lot more finesse kind of style, stuff like that. Darren Williams came out first of all, his height advantage was absolutely insane, right? 6'3" versus 5'9". The reach was there. You could see the build of Frank Gore, though, right? He had such a heavy build, but I think all that muscle did not help him at all because very, very early in this fight, both these guys got gassed. So,
Mhm.
first round, just to recap the fight if you didn't see it, Darren Williams hurt Frank Gore, right? He hit him with a beautiful right hand. Nothing much past that, right? I think the second round is when Frank Gore hurt him back. Third round was when he hit him and then he pushed him down to the ground, right? Darren Williams shoved Frank Gore through the bottom ropes. It looked like it was turning into a professional wrestling match, but we didn't see a shooting star press from Darren Williams, unfortunately. Fourth round, man, these guys were absolutely gassed. But it was an entertaining fight. I can't even hate on these guys for what they did. Darren Williams said he's one and done, that he's not going to go back into the ring. He's going to let the pros do it. But Frank Gore looks like he wants to do it a little bit more. I mean, this is a guy that's always asking for a beating. I mean, one of the longest tenured NFL running backs. What is he, third all time in rushing yards? This dude has been in the NFL for the longest time. And then now he's going to go on to combat sports. He's just asking for CTE. But all respect to the man for continuing to put his body on the line for the sport, which is always admirable. What were your thoughts on this fight, man?
I thought it was entertaining. That's the one word I'd use. I thought that, going into it, I was like, all right, these guys have never done it before. It's gonna be a train wreck, and it kind of was. But I feel like sometimes in fighting, train wrecks can be fun. Apparently, Darren Williams has been training for 6 years. I googled. He owns an MMA gym. Has been training there since 2015, which is kind of crazy. But it was a fun fight to watch. I think that it's kind of the example of maybe not everybody should be doing this because it's dangerous when you get two guys who don't really know what they're doing and they're just kind of throwing punches and one guy gets seriously hurt. But hey, man, as a one and done thing, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's a type of fight that you might drink wine to and just kind of cheer, be crazy, right? So I was entertained by it. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that either guy has a bright future in boxing. But at the same, I was going to compare them to Anderson Silva, but Anderson Silva is a legit fighter. Like at the same age, like he's going to be good at any combat related activity. But if Frank Gore wants to keep doing it, with the right opponent, and I want to emphasize the right opponent, maybe a Nate Robinson or a guy like that, sure. Fun night. Maybe some other nights he can be a surprise Frank Gore versus random, NFL or NBA or maybe a tennis. I don't know, but yeah, it was fun. That's what I'll say. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a fun fight, man. And, there's some comments talking about the scripted thing real quick. So I do want to address that. But before that, I want to give some props to Anderson Silva, right? Because he came out, he fought a legitimate boxer in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., right?
Yeah, that's
And
impressive.
destroyed him.
Yeah.
Like he outclassed the boxer, man. And it was crazy. So insane to see someone who actually takes the sport a little more seriously. And I mean, all respect to obviously Tyron Woodley for translating over to boxing, but he didn't look good in his last UFC fights. He didn't look good, in these boxing fights. He doesn't have any of that at all. But I wanted to talk about this just because these guys are out here asking this question. And go to Complex Sports Twitter account. In their video, this is from the As One A Tech or Aztec, Azlatech, one of those two. You'll see Paul give Woodley a hand gesture right before the KO scripted. I see. It's really hard for me to think that a fight is scripted, right? Especially like now, because it's not just underhanded payment. Like there's so much more media, there's so much more social media, right? There's so much around it. You just can't hide these things anymore. So I just think it's really tough for it to be scripted. I mean, but that's me personally. It could be. I could be wrong. Like I don't know everything, right? For absolutely, I don't know. Jake Paul could have paid him another $500,000 to be like, hey, let me knock you out, right? But you know, the way Tyron Woodley fights, this was how he would have gotten knocked out against, anybody, right? Jake Paul was doing a good job all fight feinting, and Tyron Woodley was biting horribly at all of the feints, right? And this wasn't something that, he just did at the sixth round. No, he was biting on these feints bad all fight. And I was like, when is he going to get caught from these feints, because if you bite at a feint initially and you make your read as a boxer, it's really easy, right? You fake high to the head, you go to the liver. You fake to the body, you go up high, right? You fake the jab if they're trying to parry the jab. Look at what Usman did to Masvidal, right? He thought he was going to parry the jab. Instead of going, he goes straight over the top, parries it, goes 1 over 2. So, you know, it's tough for me to say that. I don't think it's scripted. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, like you said, like I don't know, but I think that, like you mentioned, I think that with anything, it's hard to keep a secret for too long, right? I think there's just so many people involved in these fights and these negotiations. Like I feel like with social media, we probably would have heard that, yeah, this fight is looking a little fishy. Um, I think he just got knocked out, man. Like I don't think that it was like as much as I hate to say it, like I'm probably going to play into the scripted thing on Twitter, but it's sometimes guys just lose. You get knocked out. Like it happens in combat sports, and like you mentioned, Tyron Woodley hasn't looked good for years. Like this isn't a new thing. It's not like he was some great striker. It's like, whoa, Tyron Woodley got no, man. Like this has been the case. So I'd be happy if it was scripted. I'd feel better because, again, disliking Jake Paul, it'd be great to know that he's not actually that good at boxing. But I think we just saw an experience gap, an experience and skill gap, and that's okay. Like you give credit where credit's due. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, maybe we'll hear about a week later. Tyron says, "Yeah, I took a dive." I think that the commentators mentioning or saying something about taking a dive probably fed into that a little bit, but man, I don't think that we should be looking for excuses to discredit Jake Paul. So it is what it is. Like I said, I wish he took a dive, but it's probably not the case.
Yeah, I mean, if you took a dive, we'll see at ESPN 30 for 30 for it, 30 for 30 in like 20 years if you actually took a dive. 12 people in here. Make sure you drop a like. Appreciate you guys joining us at 1:23 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, you could be doing anything at 1:30 in the morning and you're joining us. So thank you. Appreciate you being here. Roro Noah Zoro saying Willie has no jab at all. Took advantage of that overhand, right? Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
And Baby Rage and Roro Noah is talking about the slam. Dude, what was your reaction to that slam? I was laughing my ass off. Like when he took him, it was like he went back into the MMA and just double legged him straight
I
up.
think that's what happens sometimes. If you're an MMA guy and you've been traded for years and years and years, I think that sometimes you just kind of flip that switch. Which is why I said if this was a real fight, this fight in the octagon, it wouldn't be a question. Like we know what Tyron Woodley's about, but unfortunately, it was a boxing match, so you don't get much points for go for a double leg.
No, I mean, you take any, low level UFC fighter against the most professional boxer and you put him in a real fight, the low level UFC fighter is going to win every single time.
Every time. Yeah.
Boxing is definitely an art, but it's not the complete art as far as combat sports goes. But which makes it fun because it singles out one part of it and be like, hey, which one of us can just punch each other harder? Maybe that's all you want to see. Nothing wrong with that at all.
So apparently Jake Paul's been training with Khabib. Apparently that's a thing. So I don't know. Maybe he's looking at MMA in the future.
I mean, can you imagine? Eagle FC is being based out of South Florida right now. Khabib's in promotion, right? You sign Jake Paul. You teach Jake Paul how to wrestle, who is already a wrestler, right?
He was a wrestler. He got a background in it.
And you have Khabib teach this man how to wrestle. You have Jake Paul have an MMA fight against one of your Dagestani guys, right? That's a draw.
Sure.
Like that's a major draw. David Smith joining us at 1:25 a.m. saying, "Shake my head." Appreciate you joining us, man. You're always on the post game shows as well, so appreciate you joining us here tonight. Woodley we needed to call it, man. Let's talk about that. Do you think Woodley is this it for Tyron Woodley? Do you think this is the last we've seen of him?
Yeah, I don't see the direction he goes. I mean, unless he wants to go back into MMA, maybe the PFL or Eagle FC or something. Fight a lower level guy to kind of get that confidence back. But I don't see him boxing again. If you can't beat Jake Paul, I don't see you beating a legit boxer. I just don't really see the direction. I mean, he's made a lot of money off these previous two fights. So he doesn't need to fight. Like, I just don't see the motivation. He's not getting back to that mountaintop anytime soon. Yeah, if I'm him, I'm saying I'm done. It's over.
Yeah, it's really tough for me to say what will be next for him, right? I think you said it perfectly, right? An Eagle FC, if Khabib is going to pay you a good amount of money and you can go back over there, you go fight there. PFL, you try to chase that 170-pound belt. You can get $1
Sure.
million fighting
Yeah.
for that season, right? I mean, maybe that's what you do, but boxing is not your thing, man. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't even think combat sports is your thing.
No.
Baby Rage said, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, no, I agree with you. Yeah, there's just not really a path.
Nah, he's not he doesn't have the volume enough for do it, and he doesn't have the stance. He's way too flat-footed. Baby Rage saying Darren Williams committed a flagrant foul on Gore. That had me cracking up, bro. That was funny as hell. His last UFC fights were so bad, and that's a good transition, man. Let's talk about this main event a little bit from UFC. Derrick Lewis knocking out the Dawkins, Chris Dawkins, I think it was, or
Yep.
Kyle
What's that?
Dawkins,
Yep.
one of the Dawkins brothers, right? Knocking out Chris Dawkins in the first round. Dawkins started off pretty well. You know, he was doing a good job moving. You know, if you didn't know, it was about a 30-pound weight discrepancy. Lewis was tipping the scales at 265. Dawkins was coming in about 235. You know, Dawkins showed his nimbleness on his feet early. He was able to get some beautiful outside low kicks, which I think if the fight was to go into the fourth, fifth rounds, you know, if you last that long with Derrick Lewis, of course, those leg kicks would have paid off because those were some pretty good low leg kicks. But Derrick Lewis, man, came up, beautiful body shot, and once he got up that, you know, that left hook, and I think it was left hook, and then he just started spamming right hook, right hook, right hook, hit him, in the jaw, hit him right up clean, and Chris Dawkins was down, man. And after the fight, Derrick Lewis took his cup out and he threw it into the crowd like Derrick Lewis would do. Now, I mean, the fight, you know, before we get to the implications, man, if you're a member of that audience, do you go to catch that clip from Derrick Lewis, or what do you do for that? Like,
Are you
are you there?
absolutely? Yeah. Of course I want a Derrick Lewis cup. Like, why not? I feel like if I'm wearing a Derrick Lewis cup, nobody can beat me in any kind of fight. I'm good. Like, if I got a Derrick Lewis cup, this is like 20 times stronger. So of course, that's 100%. I will fight anybody for a damn Derrick Lewis cup.
Man, so a guy grabbed it, and let me get this banner off here real quick. In the post fight, a reporter, I think Alex Buchanan is his name, asked Derrick Lewis if the guy was good to do a shoey off it. And if you know, you watch UFC, obviously, you know, Tai Tuivasa, he does his shoeys. So he was saying, is the guy good to do a cuppy? He was like, yeah, you know, I'm pretty clean, you know. So let me ask you this question: would you pour a beer in Derrick Lewis's cup and drink a beer out of it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wouldn't do a shoey. I'm not doing that in someone's cup. That's disgusting. I like saying it's pretty clean already means that there's something in there that I probably shouldn't have going in my mouth. I don't know. Maybe the beer will kill it. Maybe the beer will kill whatever the hell is in Derrick Lewis's cup. But the man's got hot balls. It's gonna be hot beer. It's just I couldn't. Not even for money, bro. Nah. I'm good.
Yeah, Derek Lewis actually said that it's the cup was going to be warm, so it would be a
Yeah.
warm latte. So yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to to Derek Lewis for always making things funny. But he did say, man, that you know after the fight, he doesn't really want to fight a 5 rounder, right? He's really not looking forward to fighting another 5 rounder. He even said that he doesn't really look at Cyril Gane versus Ngannou because he doesn't want to fight for the belts unless it's 3 rounds, which obviously is not going to happen. But let's talk about the next matchup for him because there's a name that's out there. It's not really doing too much. You know, he's definitely a draw coming up from light heavyweight. Might be a fun fight, right? You got two of just the most prolific names out there going at it at heavyweight. John Jones is out there, right? And then, you know, we were talking a little bit before we got it out here that might be an option. So what are your thoughts on that, man? What do you actually brought that idea up. So how do you think that matchup would go?
I love it. I love it. And they have a common opponent in Daniel Cormier. Uh, I think it's a really good introduction into heavyweight for John Jones. If he can get past Derrick Lewis, you have a lot more confidence in him at that weight class. Now, I don't know how serious John Jones has been about gaining weight. I don't know what he's going to look like at heavyweight. I know that a while back he had mentioned that his focus was actually on I think he wanted to get up to like 265. I think he wanted to put on that much weight. I don't know how successful it is, but if he's that big versus Derrick Lewis, I mean, I think that we all know that there's a massive skill gap, right? And I think that the common idea is that as you go up in weight, the less skilled guys are, right? And we know that John Jones is incredibly skilled. Like, I think that if he's actually put on that size, it would be a really interesting fight. Now, I don't know what John Jones looks like taking the power of a heavyweight, let alone Derrick Lewis, but I'd be really, really interested in it. The only question for me, because I think that Derrick Lewis would probably take that fight. I don't think he's scared of John Jones. The only question is John Jones looking to get into a title fight immediately? And I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking at this point. But I think that's a fight to make.
And it's an absolute fun fight, right? I feel like that press conference would definitely be a lot of fun. To your point, which is something I didn't even think about, they share a common opponent, right? You know, Daniel Cormier is somebody that John Jones beat, and somebody that beat Derrick Lewis, right? And it's a pretty different matchup that it is. But that would be a really fun fight. And Baby Rich saying, imagine Snoop Dogg commentating that fight. That would be hilarious. Like that would be absolutely hilarious. Any final thoughts on Derrick Lewis before? We talk about one more guy before we close out the show here.
No, I love Derrick Lewis, man. I don't know what's next for him. I doubt the UFC is going to make. He's nothing to me. He's nothing less than a main event fighter. Like, I mean, I don't think the UFC is ever going to be like, yeah, we'll put you in a main event for 3 rounds. But anything less than that, man, and Derrick Lewis can beat anybody. You know, he can beat anybody in a 3-round fight. So I'm looking forward to what he does next.
For sure, man. And no matter what, it's always going to be an attraction. And what a fun way to end off 2021 as far as the UFC card goes. Before we close it out, we're definitely going to talk. I'm going to talk about a little bit about Belal Muhammad, but I want to get your thought on this maneuver by Don'Tale Mayes early in the fight. Looked like he was using his hips to get into the head. Not sure if you can see what's going on here.
I think he was definitely inspired by Israel Adesanya, which, you know what? Israel is a great fighter. And if I'm Don'Tale Mayes, I look at him and I'm like, yo, I want to be like Izzy. So that's a great move. I would hope that more UFC fighters incorporate that into their game. They're probably teaching that in gyms right now. Shout out to him for being an innovator, really taking what a previous great did and just bring it to the next level. I think it's amazing.
I love your analysis of this. First of all, that was amazing. How you were able to turn that around and make that into a beautiful monologue there. Awesome
Thank
job.
you, sir. Thank you.
But man, I think it was just excellent use of his third leg. Right. Yes. I think maybe it was an illegal strike. Right. It's a leg to head strike. But excellent use of the third leg. Absolutely. He also did headbutt him in the ribs. David Smith talking about that. Don'Tale Mayes with some absolutely unique offense tonight. Headbutting him to the ribs, hip thrusts to the face. He even had Herb Dean laughing. Shout out to Don'Tale Mayes, man. I think that was one of the most unique style offenses I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I've never seen that before.
It's something that I don't think I've ever seen before. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. I don't know if you even know if it's technically a legal strike. He was saying it's lower body to the head, so it's technically not. But I mean, it's 2021.
Yeah. Try new things out here.
It's okay. It's okay to try things in 2021. That worked out pretty well. I do want to close out the show before talk about Cub Swanson. Beautiful knockout as well. He got that done in the first round against Darren Elkins. Belal, remember the name Muhammad, took out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? He's going to be ranked top 5 now in the welterweight division. And he has a couple of guys in front of him. You got somebody like Gilbert Burns, right? Obviously, Kamaru Usman's a champion. You got Colby Covington up there. What do you think's next for Belal Muhammad? Do you think he takes a step up, fight somebody above him, or do you think he tries to do something like defend the rankings and pull that up and fight somebody below him?
That's a good question. I think okay. So we have Leon and Kamaru, who are supposedly maybe, they probably have a date. I would imagine sometime summer, maybe before summer. So they're locked up. Gilbert Burns he's been looking for a fight. There was a rumor about Covington and Hamzat maybe, but I kind of like Covington. Like if it's me, I'm kind of doing Covington Belal. Let's see if they can get it cracking. I mean, yeah, there's so many options. Like Vicente Luque is also free.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best matchup. Now looking at it,
I would like to see that. Honestly, one of Luque, Covington, Burns, maybe. Oh, Masvidal's hurt right now, so but that can also be. The welterweight division has so many guys. It is one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. Um, Honestly, let's do Covington. He's the second best guy in the welterweight division. Let's see what Bilal can do.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. I'm not sure if Dana would push that fight just yet because I don't know if the Bilal has the name yet. Noah Zoro was saying Covington versus Poirier. I'm not sure if you heard about that, Brian. Poirier is probably going to be stepping up to 170.
Yeah,
But
that's what he
Zoro, I'm not
mentioned.
sure if you heard. Him and Nate Diaz might be mixing it up. That might be the next
Yeah,
fight for Dustin Poirier. So I can see that happening. Covington versus Masvidal is something that people have been talking about for
interesting.
next year's Ultimate Fighter. So maybe that's something that happens. We can see that happen. And then the conclusion of that, they throw down in South Florida. That would be fun. Yep, David Smith right there. Colby versus Masvidal.
Okay. What about this? Colby versus Masvidal, right? And then you get let's see, Luque versus Burns. I'm just throwing out matches, but and then what if you did Bilal versus Hamzat?
Oh,
Would you be interested in that kind of trio of fights?
see, that's a good trio because Burns and Luque, I don't think would face off, but there's only one problem there. They train together. They're
I didn't
pretty
know
good
that.
friends. Now,
Okay,
obviously, that doesn't
yeah,
always come into play, right? But that's probably not a matchup that's ideal for them,
right.
just because there's so much other ways it can go.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
that's a good point. I'm just thinking those are probably after if assuming that Usman beats Leon, I would imagine that those two names are going to come back up. Outside of
but
Hamzat,
by the way, that's not finalized yet.
it's not.
Dana White said that he has something planned for Leon Edwards
What?
that doesn't involve Usman. So that's
That
that. And
that is surprising.
you
Why would Leon not be fighting for the belt?
that's why I'm really not sure what's next for him. Vicente Luque is my favorite fighter. Vicente Luque is top 3 for me, man. I
Yeah, absolutely.
love
Yeah,
him.
that
He is
that
such a fun player.
that fight versus Chiesa, bro. Like, I mean, if it's not Edwards, I think you have to do Usman versus Luque. I know he was a backup fighter for Usman versus Covington, so he can slide right in there, man. Like, I can see it. I can see it.
I think that's a good matchup too, man. I mean, personally, like I said, I'm a big fan of Vicente Luque, like David
Yeah.
Smith. His fight versus Mike Perry was, one of my favorite fights ever. And Mike Perry actually moved in my area. He goes to my gym now, so I actually got to say what's up to him and told him that his fight versus Vicente Luque was one of the reasons I got into MMA. So he's actually a really nice guy. People can talk shit about him all they want. In person, face to face, talk to me, no problem. Was nice to me the next time I saw him. So shout out to Mike Perry for being a nice guy. But yeah, man, this welterweight division is just
It's deep.
absolutely sick, right? Usman, I think it has to be Edwards, right? If you're not putting anybody else, Leon
Yeah.
Edwards has to be that matchup, in my opinion. You throw Colby versus Masvidal, Luque versus um, Bilal Muhammad, and then there
Yeah.
you go, right? And then now you have Neil Magny, who said he'll take on Hamzat. You have Neil
Yeah.
Magny versus Hamzat, who's at 11.
I don't know why that fight hasn't been scheduled. Neil Magny is one of the only guys to seemingly want that fight. And Hamza's been calling out everybody. He's just looking to fight me. Like he would fight every weekend if he could. So I don't see why that's not scheduled for as soon as possible. But man, that is such a deep, deep weight class.
It is, and the thing is, like, it's not as active as I wish.
No.
It's like I wish these guys just fought a little bit more.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're gonna see a little bit movement in the rankings tonight, but it's not gonna be up until mid February that we're gonna see a top ranked one of these guys again. So tough there, unfortunately. But hey, great win for Bilal Muhammad, who took down Stephen Wonderboy Thompson more than anybody else in his entire career. Right, he notched a personal best in takedowns, and he also put Stephen Thompson on the ground more than anybody else as in any other fight, right? So over there, do we have a cord server? No, but that's a good idea. We might do that. That's actually not a bad idea. We might head that. Baby Rage, you might have started something new. So shout out to you. That's actually a really good idea. So thank you for that. Um, but yeah, man, phenomenal card. Honestly, like I think there was 11 finishes on the UFC card tonight, which was third most all time. So what a phenomenal way to finish off the card. Um, just overall to talk about what happened tonight. the first fight was absolutely amazing. Like I said, Cub Swanson, phenomenal fight overall. Just he was beautiful. His hands were down pretty low. He got the knockout in the first round. Amanda Lemos with a questionable decision over Angela Hill. I mean, no one has lost more decisions than Angela Hill. Split decisions, especially, right? Split decision after split decision. She's taken losses. I think she beat Michelle Waterson. I think she won tonight. If it wasn't for all these losses, she would really be fighting for all the titles. So tough one for Angela Hill there, unfortunately. Ricky Simone knocking out Rafaela Sunsao with a beautiful right hand, followed up by an uppercut. Matush Gamrot with a beautiful knee to the back of the ribs for Diego Ferreira, putting him out. I'm not sure if it was a broken rib that he did there, but absolutely beautiful finish over there. But man, phenomenal card. Prelims were lit as well. Gerald Mishart, after going down 2 rounds, got a rear naked choke on Dustin Solfus. Beautiful fight there. Justin Tafa landed a beautiful high kick to Harry Hunsucker, who guarded this kick perfectly, right? Tai, or not, I said Tai Tuivasa. Justin Tafa went up for a high kick, right? Hunsucker went to guard it with both hands. He actually blocked the kick, but the kick was so strong, he still got knocked out. Absolutely insane. A crazy job by Justin Tafa. Sahara Eubanks getting, I think, beautiful front kick to the body, right in the liver for Sarge Eubanks. Melissa Gatto got it done. Charles Jourdain, fantastic fight overall. He said it was the last fight on his card. He went down in the first round, in my opinion. I felt like Andre Ewell did a great job in the first round, but after that, beautiful fight. To end the fight, he landed a front kick to the body that put Andre Ewell on his ass, which was great to see. And he let out like a war scream like 15 seconds before the fight was going to be ended. And you get to see Andre Ewell just like, what is this guy on? Like crazy. So fun fight there. Raquel Pennington with the choke over Meiji Shison. That was phenomenal. Dontel Mays, like we said, we saw that dry hump in the air. The 69 maneuver was phenomenal, but he did end up getting a TKO. He got a crucifix, got those elbows to the head. David Smith saying Jourdain showed heart, man, all heart, right? After came in a little heavy favorite. I think he was like minus 200, minus 210 round there. After the first round, it came down to about minus 140 because you will close that gap. But second and third round, like you said, David, he showed heart. Finished the fight really strong, landed a lot of clean shots, didn't get hit too much, some beautiful low kicks as well. Great shot by Charles Jourdain from my boy Ariel's town up in Canada, fighting over there. So shout out to him. And Jordan Levitt, man, with only the third inverted triangle in UFC history, right? Was able to get the inverted triangle against Matt Sales, and that was in the second round, which was a phenomenal submission. And after he does his submission, what does he do naturally? He does the split. So shout out to the Monkey King, Jordan Levitt. I think that's his nickname. That is the Monkey King. Perfect. Cool. So yeah, phenomenal UFC card. Like I said, just talked about all the finishes there. We saw a bunch of finishes on tonight's card. What a phenomenal way to close out the combat sports world in UFC boxing as well, right? Like I said, Jake Paul crazily knocking out Tyron Woodley. Derrick Lewis putting a cap on 2021, finishing it with the last fight with a knockout over Dawkins. And that's it, man. That's all we have for the combat sports world in 2021. But we will have some videos coming up. I'm going to drop a top 10 knockouts, top 10 fight of the year, top 10 submissions. Me and Alf are going to recap the boxing year. You'll probably see the 5 rounds MMA crew have some more shows. David Smith saying no UFC for 4 weeks, though, man. I'm right there. I'm sad with you. That's what UFC Fight Pass is for, right? I'm going to go back and watch some fights, prep myself for the next event. Probably going to start doing some betting shows next year, before the fights go live. Just get some betting picks out there, get some out those going. Hey, because if we can make some money together, why not, right? Let's get some betting picks. If we got the knowledge to do that, let's make some money. It's 5 reasons, right? Any closing thoughts, man, on tonight's card, Jake Paul, Derrick Lewis, and then, overall 2021, anything else as far as the combat sports at UFC, boxing, anything you want to say?
Nothing that really, it's something's on my mind. I don't know when this fight is scheduled for, but listen, whenever that Izzy versus Whitaker fight comes up, we all got to be on that, man. Listen, please have me on that show because I'm really excited for that fight. I love my boy Izzy. Whitaker is a fantastic fighter. So that's the way I don't know when that fight's supposed to be scheduled for, but just have me on that.
Let me pull it up right now. Izzy versus Robert Whitaker 2, targeted for UFC 271 in February. So we're
Okay.
looking around
All
February.
right.
Yeah, man. So that should be a fun fight, man. Like you said, Adesanya personally is my personal favorite as well. I mean, he's a big anime guy and he's a
Mhm.
fighter. I mean, you can't ask for more. I mean,
I agree. I
can't
agree.
really ask for more there, right? I did stick to, I know when I went to the Heat game yesterday, was able to cover that. And I want to say thank you, first of all, Ethan, everybody in 5 Reasons. Absolute dream come true to go and cover my first Heat game. That was awesome. But Greg said no anime questions. I didn't ask them any anime questions. So there you go, Greg. But as far as the combat sports world, tonight, yeah, I can't believe Tyron Woodley. You know what? I did not come in with any expectations anyways. Like, I wasn't coming in thinking Tyron Woodley's going to knock Jake Paul out because I know what Tyron Woodley does and I know the way he's fought, right? So didn't really have too much expectations there. Derrick Lewis, beautiful knockout. Derrick Lewis did more for the black community today than Joe Biden did. So shout out to Derrick Lewis for that. um, you know, yeah, that's that. Anything that's pretty much it there, man. As
That's
far
it.
as the 2021, what a bunch of beautiful fights we had, right?
So many great fights.
Adesanya versus, going up to light heavyweight, not making it, but getting the Paulo Costa finish, right? We see a new champion in the lightweight division in
Mhm.
Charles Oliveira.
Amazing run.
The 125 pound, Brandon Moreno coming
Mhm.
out, winning the champion.
Bro, first
Amazing.
place champion. Oh my god, dude! So many great fights. So many great fights this year. Nunes getting upset. That, bro, this year has been crazy. This year has had a lot of great fights.
Yeah, I mean, I was still in shock that Nunes lost that fight. Like, it's
Yeah.
still absolutely insanity that she lost that fight, but we'll see her back again.
Mhm.
Shevchenko, just her continuing her reign of dominance, right?
Mhm.
We saw a new champion in Jan Blachowicz, and then he got dethroned, right? We
Yep.
saw Glover Teixeira break through
Yep.
at 41 years old.
Oldest
41
UFC
years
champion,
old.
right?
I'm sorry?
Oldest UFC champion, right?
In the current modern division. Yep, modern era. Yeah, I think Randy Couture might have been 41 or 42. Or Mark Coleman were old when they won the championship. But yeah, in the modern era, definitely the oldest. But a lot of great knockouts, a lot of great title fights, a lot of great fights overall. Bryan, appreciate you as always for joining me. I'm gonna hope to have you on some more of these combat shows. You know what I mean? Because you enjoy watching these fights and you do a
I
great
do.
job with it. And you're
I do.
always so lovely on the commentary. Appreciate you
Thank you, sir.
joining us this evening. Appreciate everybody in the comments. David Smith, Rover Noazoa, Baby Rage, UD3. Appreciate you, man. You were commenting all night long. I want to make sure I shout out to everybody. Is that everybody? Oh, the as one Atik. Shout out to you as well. Yeah, man. Appreciate everybody in there. If you're watching this after this, make sure you drop a like as well, man. Appreciate you guys staying up to 1:49 a.m. Thanks for checking out the Three Piece Combo MMA Show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Johnathan, aka Three Piece Combo. I was joined by Bryan tonight, and we'll see you guys after the next fight.